The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was bigger than most cities. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy sat in curved rows that reached up to the crystal ceiling. Today the air felt heavy with tension. Everyone knew what was coming. Ambassador Kim Day stood at the human podium, his hands folded behind his back. He had gray hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. Next to him, Dr. Park Hana checked her datapad one last time. She was young, maybe 30, with bright eyes that still believed in peace between species. Commander Lee Tae stood like a statue, his military uniform perfect, his jaw tight with anger he would not show. The three humans watched as the final votes came in. Red lights blinked across the massive vote board. Red meant no. Red meant humans were not wanted here anymore. The vote is complete, announced Chancellor Vexathera. She was tall and blue, with 4 arms and eyes like black diamonds. Her voice echoed through the hall without emotion. 847 votes to expel. 3 votes to allow humans to remain. The motion passes. Kim Day felt something cold settle in his chest. 300 years. 3 centuries of humans working beside aliens, fighting their wars, sharing their science, protecting their worlds. All of it meant nothing now. The charges against humanity are as follows, Vexathera continued. Excessive aggression in military actions. Unpredictable behavior in diplomatic situations. Dangerous innovation without proper oversight from this council. The human species has proven too unstable for continued membership. In the observer sections, alien representatives whispered among themselves. Some looked satisfied. Others seemed worried. A few appeared sad, but not sad enough to change their votes. Dr. Park Hana looked up from her pad. Sir, she whispered to Kim Day, the Altarians voted against us. Even after we saved their colony ships from the asteroid storm. Kim Day nodded slowly. He had expected this. Fear was stronger than gratitude. It always was. The Centaurians too, added Commander Lee Tae quietly. We built their entire defense grid for free. And the Vorthans, Dr. Park Hana's voice was bitter now. We gave them faster-than-light communication technology. They voted to throw us out. Kim Day raised his hand slightly. His team fell silent. This was not the time for anger, even though anger would be easy. Chancellor Vexathera spoke again. Humanity has 30 standard days to remove all personnel, installations, and vessels from Council space. Any human presence after this deadline will be considered an act of war. The gavel came down with a sound like thunder. The decision was final. Kim Day stepped forward to the speaking platform. The hall grew quiet. Thousands of alien eyes watched him, some with relief, others with curiosity about what the human would say. Honored members of the council, Kim Day began. His voice was calm and clear. We came to you 3 centuries ago with open hands and open hearts. We offered our friendship, our knowledge, our protection. We asked for nothing but a place among the stars with you. He paused and looked across the vast hall. In the front rows sat the leaders who had voted against humanity. The Thylorian ambassador who had called humans violent primitives just yesterday. The Milani representative who had argued that human emotions made them dangerous. The Galtrian speaker who had said human technology was too unpredictable for civilized space. We fought your wars, Kim Day continued. When the Crimson Fleet terrorized your trade routes, human ships stood guard. When unknown diseases threatened your colonies, human doctors found cures. When first contact with new species went wrong, human diplomats found peace. Some aliens in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. They remembered these things. We built the quantum communication network that connects every world in Council space. We designed the early warning systems that watch for threats from the galactic rim. We trained your security forces and shared our military tactics freely. We asked for nothing in return but acceptance. Dr. Park Hana watched the alien faces. Some looked ashamed now. Others remained hard and cold. But you have made your choice, Kim Day said. You have chosen fear over friendship. You have decided that different means dangerous. We will honor your decision. He stepped closer to the microphone. His voice grew softer, but somehow it seemed to reach every corner of the massive hall. We will leave your space. We will take our ships, our people, our technology. We will take our protection with us. And when the darkness comes calling from the void between stars, remember this moment. Remember that you sent away the ones who would have stood with you. Chancellor Vexathera's 4 arms crossed over her chest. Is that a threat, human? Kim Day smiled sadly. No, Chancellor. It is simply the truth. The galaxy is vast and full of dangers you have forgotten because we kept them away. You will remember them soon enough." He turned to his team. "Dr. Park, Commander Lee, we are done here." The three humans walked down from their podium. Their footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. As they reached the great doors of the council hall, Kim Day stopped and turned back one last time. "To those few who voted for us," he called out, "thank you. Your friendship meant more than you know." To the rest, he shrugged. "Good luck. You will need it." The doors closed behind them with a final boom. In the hall, whispers started immediately. Some aliens cheered. Others sat in worried silence. A few seemed to realize they had made a terrible mistake, but it was too late now. On the observation deck above, an old Centaurian trader named Keltar watched the humans leave. He had worked with human merchants for 50 years. They were honest, reliable, and brave, sometimes too brave for their own good. "This is wrong," he muttered to his assistant. "They protect half the trade routes in the galaxy." "Who will do that now?" His assistant, young and full of council propaganda, shrugged. "The council will manage. Humans are too dangerous to keep around." Keltar shook his head. The young ones did not remember the time before humans joined the council. They did not remember how pirates ruled the space lanes. They did not remember how colony ships disappeared in the dark between stars. They did not remember the fear. "You will learn," the old trader whispered. "You will all learn." Outside the council building, Kim Day stood with his team as their transport ship arrived. The sleek vessel bore the blue and white colors of Earth, colors that would soon disappear from council space forever. "What now, sir?" asked Commander Lee Tay. Kim Day looked up at the alien sky above the council homeworld. Strange stars twinkled in patterns that still seemed foreign after all these years. "Now we go home," he said simply. "We gather our people and our ships, and we leave these ungrateful fools to face the galaxy alone." Dr. Parkana felt tears starting in her eyes. All our work, all the good we did, was it all for nothing? Kim Day put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "No, Doctor. We know who we are. We know what we stand for. Let them learn the hard way what they have lost." The transport ship landed softly beside them. As they climbed aboard, none of the three humans looked back at the council building. There was nothing left for them there. But in the space between stars, ancient enemies stirred. Things that had learned to fear human courage and human determination were beginning to move again. The galaxy was about to become a much more dangerous place. The council had gotten exactly what they wanted. Soon they would discover what that truly meant. The human evacuation began at dawn on every world across council space. There was no panic, no angry protests, no dramatic speeches. The humans simply started packing and leaving with the same quiet efficiency they had shown in everything else. Captain Cho Min stood on the bridge of the research vessel, New Seoul, watching the last shuttles rise from the science station below. The station orbited a beautiful blue-green world called Kepler 442b. For 15 years, humans and aliens had worked together there, studying the planet's unique plants and animals. Shuttle Bay reports all personnel aboard. "Captain," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Bei Jin. She was young, maybe 25, with short black hair and sad eyes. This was the only job she had ever known. "Very good," Captain Cho Min replied. He was older, maybe 50, with gray streaks in his hair and laugh lines around his eyes. But he was not laughing now. "Signal the Altarian research team that we are departing." On the planet below, Dr. Yoon-soo finished packing the last of her equipment. She had spent 15 years here, longer than anywhere else in her life. Her laboratory was empty now, just white walls and empty shelves. Her research on the planet's healing plants had been going so well. Maybe it could have saved lives across the galaxy. Dr. Yoon called her research partner, an Altarian named Quick Song of Rain. The alien had blue skin and large eyes that showed emotion clearly. Right now, those eyes looked confused and hurt. "Why must you leave? Our work is not finished." Dr. Yoon-soo picked up her last bag. Inside were data crystals containing 15 years of research. "The council has decided they do not want humans here anymore. We must respect their choice." "No, but you are my friend," Quick Song of Rain said sadly. "You saved my clutchmate when the fever sickness came. You taught me about earth music and human poetry. How can friendship be dangerous?" Dr. Yoon-soo felt her throat get tight. She had grown to love this gentle alien like a sister. "I do not know, but the council has spoken. The human doctor walked to the shuttle pad where the last transport waited. Quick Song of Rain followed her, along with several other Altarian scientists. They had worked together for so long, shared so many discoveries. "Will we see you again?" asked another Altarian. Dr. Yoon Soo climbed into the shuttle and turned back. "I hope so. Maybe someday when fear is not stronger than friendship." The shuttle door closed and the craft lifted into the alien sky. All across the galaxy, similar scenes were happening. Human miners on the asteroid stations of Vega were sealing their equipment and boarding their ships. Human diplomats on Centauri Prime were closing their embassy and saying goodbye to alien friends who begged them to stay. Human terraforming engineers on the outer rim worlds were shutting down the machines that had been turning dead rocks into living worlds. But something strange was happening that the aliens had not expected. The humans were taking more than just their people. The quantum communication network that connected every world in council space began going dark, section by section. The humans had built this network over 2 centuries. They had maintained it, upgraded it, kept it running. Now they were taking the key components with them. On Proxima Station, alien merchants watched in growing worry as the communication array went silent. "How will we contact our homeworlds?" asked a Centaurian trader named Swift Prophet. The station commander, a proud Thylorian named Golden Truth, waved his clawed hand dismissively. "We will build our own networks. We do not need human technology." But Golden Truth did not understand how the quantum communicators worked. Neither did any other alien in council space. The humans had shared the basic technology, but the advanced maintenance and repair procedures had always been handled by human technicians. In the Andorian Passage, the main trade route between the core worlds and the frontier, Captain Park Hyun was loading the last of the patrol ships onto his massive carrier vessel, the Seoul Express. These ships had kept the trade routes safe for decades, chasing off pirates and providing emergency rescue for ships in trouble. "Captain," called a desperate Vorthon merchant named 3 Rings of Profit, "you cannot take all the patrol ships. Who will protect the cargo vessels?" Captain Park Hyun was a big man with broad shoulders and calloused hands from years of ship work. He looked at the worried alien with tired eyes. "That is not our problem anymore. The council voted us out. They can protect their own trade routes now. But the pirates," 3 Rings of Profit's tentacles writhed with anxiety. "The Crimson Fleet. The Shadow Raiders. They have been quiet because they fear human response. Without you." Captain Park Hyun sealed the last cargo bay and headed for his ship's ramp. "Then I suggest you hire better security. The humans are leaving." All across council space, similar conversations were happening. Human doctors were packing up medical equipment that had saved countless alien lives. Human engineers were shutting down the early warning systems that watched for threats from the dangerous edges of the galaxy. Human teachers were leaving schools where they had educated young aliens about the wonders of the universe. On Earth, in the great city of New Seoul, President Kang Dae was meeting with his advisors. The president was Kim Dae's older brother, a man who had spent his whole life in politics. Today he looked older than his 70 years. "The evacuation is proceeding on schedule," reported Admiral Lee Soo, the head of Human Fleet Command. She was a stern woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. "All personnel will be out of council space within the deadline." "What about the installations?" asked President Kang Dae. "The defense platforms, the research stations, the mining facilities? We are taking what we can and destroying what we cannot," Admiral Lee Soo replied. "We will not leave advanced technology for them to steal." Dr. Oh Young, the head of human science, spoke up. "Sir, some of the alien scientists are begging us to stay. They say their research will collapse without our help." President Kang Dae was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "They should have thought of that before they voted us out. We offered partnership. They chose fear. Now they will learn to live with that choice." On the frontier worlds, the evacuation was more complicated. These were the dangerous edges of council space, where unknown threats lurked in the dark between stars. Human colonies here had served as early warning posts and first defense against whatever might come from the void. Captain Nam Woo commanded the fortress world of Haven's Edge. It was a cold, rocky planet with massive defensive installations built into the mountains. For 100 years, human soldiers had stood watch here, scanning deep space for threats that might endanger the inner worlds. "Sir," reported Sergeant Kim Ah, a young woman who had grown up on this world. "Long-range sensors are picking up movement in the void sector. Something big, Captain Namwu studied the displays. The void sector was the darkest part of space where old legends said terrible things slept. Human deep space monitors had kept watch on it for decades, but lately the readings had been strange. Could be the Devourers stirring again, he muttered. The Devourers were machine creatures from the galactic edge, things that ate entire worlds for raw materials. They had been quiet for 2 centuries, held back by human vigilance and quick response. Should we warn the Council? Asked Sergeant Kim Ah. Captain Nam Wu looked at the evacuation orders on his desk. In 6 hours, the last human ship would leave Haven's Edge. The fortress would fall silent, its watchers gone. No, he said finally. They wanted us gone. Let them figure it out themselves. As the last day of the evacuation arrived, something became clear to everyone watching. The humans were not just leaving. They were disappearing completely. The quantum beacons that had tracked human ships for centuries went dark. Communication attempts met only silence. It was as if humanity had simply vanished from the galaxy. On Centauri Prime, Chancellor Vexithara stood in her office, watching the last human transport ship leave the planet's atmosphere. She felt a strange mixture of relief and unease. It is done, she said to her aide, a young Thylorian named Sharpmind. The humans are gone. Yes, Chancellor, Sharpmind replied. But he sounded worried. The economic reports are already coming in. Trade is down 30% in the outer sectors. The shipping companies are demanding military escorts. Chancellor Vexithara waved a dismissive hand. Temporary problems. We will adapt. The galaxy will be more peaceful without human aggression. But even as she spoke, the first emergency signals were starting to come in from the frontier. Ships were disappearing. Colonies were going silent. And in the dark spaces between the stars, things that had learned to fear human courage were beginning to move again. The humans were gone. Now the galaxy would learn what that really meant. The first attack came exactly 2 weeks after the last human ship left Council space. The cargo vessel Lucky Prophet was carrying rare metals from the mining worlds to Centauri Prime when pirates struck without warning. Captain 3 Rings of Prophet had been making this run for 20 years. The route through the Andorian Passage had always been safe, protected by human patrol ships that responded to trouble within minutes. Now those ships were gone and the passage felt empty and dangerous. Emergency signal, shouted his communications officer. 5 ships coming out of hyperspace. They are not responding to identification requests. 3 Rings of Prophet looked at his displays with growing fear. The attacking ships were sleek and black, marked with the red symbol of the Crimson Fleet. He had not seen those ships in this sector for decades. Send a distress call, he ordered. Request immediate assistance. But there was no one to call. The human patrol station that had guarded this passage was empty now. Its crew evacuated days ago. The nearest Council defense force was hours away, too far to help. The pirates struck fast and hard. Their weapons tore through Lucky Prophet's shields like they were made of paper. Within minutes, the cargo ship was crippled and helpless. This is Captain Blood Red Dawn of the Crimson Fleet, came a harsh voice over the radio. Surrender your cargo and you live. Resist and die. 3 Rings of Prophet had no choice. His ship was damaged and defenseless. He watched in bitter anger as the pirates took everything he had worked years to earn. Where are the humans? Demanded Blood Red Dawn as his boarding party searched the cargo holds. Where are the patrol ships? Gone, 3 Rings of Prophet replied sadly. The Council voted them out. Blood Red Dawn laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Then the golden age of piracy has returned. Spread the word. The humans are gone and the galaxy is ours again. Within hours, news of the attack spread across the trade networks. Other pirate groups, silent for years, began stirring in their hidden bases. The Shadow Raiders emerged from the asteroid fields of Tau Ceti. The Void Stalkers came out of the dark nebula near Rigel. The Iron Corsairs activated their secret shipyards in the Outer Rim. For decades, these criminals had lived in fear of human retaliation. Human patrol fleets were fast, well-armed, and utterly ruthless when dealing with pirates. Human military doctrine was simple. Attack civilian ships and human forces would hunt you to the ends of the galaxy. But now the humans were gone. Admiral Nakyong stood on the bridge of her flagship, Inchan's Pride, watching the evacuation of the last human naval base in Council space. She was a small woman, maybe 45, with short gray hair and eyes like steel. She had spent 20 years fighting pirates in this sector, keeping the trade routes safe for all species. Admiral, reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Kang Wu. He was young and idealistic, the kind of officer who still believed in doing the right thing. We are receiving 17 separate distress calls from the Vorthon trade convoy. They are under attack by at least 3 pirate groups. Admiral Na Kyung felt her hand move toward the command console, ready to order her fleet to respond. The movement was automatic, trained into her by decades of protecting civilian ships. Then she stopped and pulled her hand back. "Send them our regrets," she said quietly. "Inform them that human forces are no longer responsible for security in Council space." Lieutenant Kang Wu stared at her in shock. "Admiral, there are civilians on those ships, families, children. And whose fault is that?" Admiral Na Kyung turned to face her young officer. "Did we choose to leave? Did we vote ourselves out of Council space?" "No, ma'am, but nothing, Lieutenant." The Admiral's voice was cold as space. "For 3 centuries we have bled and died protecting alien civilians who thought we were too dangerous to live among them. No more, they wanted us gone. They got their wish." More distress calls flooded in over the following hours. Merchant ships attacked, colonies raided, entire shipping convoys disappearing without a trace. The pirates were not just stealing cargo anymore. They were making statements, showing the galaxy that the age of human protection was over. On Thylos Prime, the homeworld of the proud Thylorian species, Defense Minister Golden Truth received urgent reports from across their territory. Thylorian shipping was under constant attack. Their colonies on the frontier were calling for help that would not come. "Deploy our fleet," Golden Truth ordered his staff. "Show these criminals that Thylorian military might is not to be underestimated." But the Thylorian fleet had never faced the kind of coordinated pirate attacks that were now sweeping across Council space. Their ships were designed for formal battles between fleets, not the hit-and-run tactics that pirates used. Within days, they had lost 6 ships and failed to catch a single pirate vessel. How did the humans do it? Golden Truth demanded of his intelligence chief. How did they keep the pirates controlled for so long? The intelligence chief, an old soldier named Sharpclaw, had worked with human forces many times. "They did not fight like we do, Minister. They did not wait for pirates to attack and then respond. They hunted them. They tracked them to their bases and destroyed them completely. They made piracy too expensive to survive. Then we will do the same." Sharpclaw shook his head sadly. "We do not have their ships, Minister. We do not have their tactics. We do not have their intelligence networks. Most importantly, we do not have their willingness to pursue enemies into the dark places where pirates hide." The truth was becoming clear across Council space. Human military protection had not just been about having more ships or better weapons. It had been about a particular kind of mindset, a refusal to let evil go unpunished, a willingness to chase danger into the darkest corners of the galaxy. On the peaceful world of Milani, the gentle rabbit-like beings who had voted to expel humanity were facing their own crisis. Milani colonies in the outer sectors were being abandoned as pirates swept through the region like a plague. "We must ask for help," pleaded Colony Minister Soft Fur to the Milani High Council. "Our people are suffering." "From whom?" asked High Speaker Gentlewind. "We voted out the only species that had the power to help us. Then we must ask them to return." The High Council fell silent. The proud Milani had argued loudly that human emotions made them dangerous to civilized species. They had voted unanimously to expel humanity from Council space. Now they were discovering the cost of that decision. But when they tried to contact human leaders, they found only silence. The quantum communication networks that could have reached human space were shutting down, section by section. The humans were not just leaving Council space. They were cutting off all contact completely. The pirate attacks were getting worse. Captain Blood Red Dawn of the Crimson Fleet had gathered the largest pirate armada in galactic history. Ships that had hidden in the void for decades were coming out to join his fleet. They swept through system after system, taking what they wanted and destroying what they could not carry. On the fortress world of Haven's Edge, now abandoned by its human defenders, automated systems detected something troubling in the deep space sensors. Movement in the void sector, the dark region where ancient threats slept. But there was no one there to read the warnings. The human technicians who had monitored these systems for a century were gone. The aliens who had demanded their departure did not know how to operate the early warning networks. In the deepest parts of space, things older and more dangerous than pirates were beginning to stir. The Devourers, Ancient machine intelligences that consumed entire worlds for raw materials had been held back for 2 centuries by human vigilance and rapid response. They had learned to fear the swift ships and deadly weapons of human space forces, but now the humans were gone. The Devourers sent out their scout units testing the borders of Council space. They found no resistance, no human ships rushing to investigate, no early warning systems alerting defenders to their presence. The way was clear. Admiral Na Kyung stood in her quarters aboard Incheon's Pride, reading the final intelligence reports from Council space. Pirate attacks were up 300%. Shipping had collapsed in 6 sectors. 3 colony worlds had been completely abandoned. Admiral, her aide, Commander Song-Ah, entered with another datapad. Intelligence reports that the Crimson Fleet now has over 200 ships. They are calling themselves the new rulers of the Galactic Rim. Admiral Na Kyung nodded slowly. She had seen this coming. Everyone in human military command had seen it coming. They had warned the Council many times that their protection was all that stood between civilization and chaos. "Any word from Earth Command?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. President Kang Dae has approved the final phase of the withdrawal. We are to proceed to the new colonies beyond the galactic edge. All contact with Council space is to be terminated." Admiral Na Kyung looked out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, alien civilians were dying because pirates no longer feared human retaliation. Somewhere out there, colonies were being abandoned because no one would protect them. It should have made her sad. Instead, she felt only a cold satisfaction. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "We are going home." As the last human warships disappeared into hyperspace, the galaxy grew darker and more dangerous. The age of human protection was over. The age of chaos had begun. By the 3rd week after the human evacuation, panic was spreading across Council space like wildfire. What had started as isolated pirate attacks had become a complete collapse of galactic security. Trade routes that had been safe for centuries were now death traps. Entire sectors were going dark as colonies were abandoned or destroyed. Chancellor Vexithara stood in the emergency session of the Galactic Council, watching as representative after representative demanded action. The Great Hall that had been so confident 3 weeks ago now echoed with fear and anger. "The Vorthon Confederacy has lost 60% of its merchant fleet," shouted Ambassador High Prophet, his tentacles writhing with rage. "Our economy is in ruins. Our colonies are starving because supply ships cannot get through. The Milani outer colonies are completely cut off," added Speaker Gentlewind, her usual calm voice cracking with stress. "We have received no communication from 7 worlds in the past week. We fear they have been consumed." Chancellor Vexithara tried to maintain order, but the situation was spiraling beyond control. The Thylorian representative was demanding military action that they clearly could not handle. The Altarian delegate was calling for negotiations with the pirates as if criminals could be reasoned with. The Centaurian speaker was proposing hiring mercenaries, though none existed who could match the scale of the threat. "We must recall the humans," declared Ambassador Swiftmind of the Galtrian Republic, his 6 arms gesticulating wildly. "This is clearly a calculated act of revenge. They planned this chaos to punish us for voting them out." A murmur of agreement ran through the hall. It was easier to blame the humans than to face the truth, that they had expelled the only force capable of maintaining galactic peace. "We have tried to contact human leadership," Chancellor Vexithara replied coldly. "They are not responding to our communications." This was an understatement. The truth was far worse. Humanity had not just left Council space, they had vanished completely from galactic civilization. The quantum communication networks that had linked every world for centuries were failing, section by section, as their human-built components broke down without proper maintenance. On the industrial world of Kepler 438c, Chief Engineer Talneth was facing a crisis that threatened billions of lives. The massive fusion reactors that powered the planet's cities were showing critical errors. These reactors had been designed by human engineers 50 years ago and maintained by joint human-alien teams ever since. "The primary containment field is fluctuating," reported Technician Quickfix, studying the alien symbols on his control board. "I cannot understand these error codes. They are all in human technical language." Talneth stared at the reactor displays with growing dread. Engineer Oh-Sung had trained the local technicians for years, but certain key processes had always remained under human oversight. The humans had not been secretive about it. They had simply been the only ones with the experience to handle the most complex systems. "Try bypassing the safety protocols," Talnith ordered desperately. "Sir, that could cause a catastrophic failure. The human manuals specifically warn against—" "The humans are gone," Talnith snapped. "We must find our own solutions." But there were no solutions. Within hours, the first reactor went into emergency shutdown, then the second. By the end of the day, half the planet was without power. Hospitals lost life support. Food preservation systems failed. Transportation networks collapsed. Similar disasters were happening across Council space. On Proxima Station, the quantum communication array that connected 12 star systems had broken down completely. The alien technicians could replace broken components, but they did not understand the programming that made the system work. Dr. Ryu Min, formerly of the Human Xenological Institute, had been the Council's expert on first contact with new species. Her replacement, a brilliant Thylorian scientist named Golden Mind, was struggling with a new species discovery that Dr. Ryu could have handled in hours. "They communicate through bioluminescent patterns," Golden Mind explained to the Council's First Contact Committee. "But I cannot decode their language matrix. The mathematical models are too complex." The committee members looked at each other with growing frustration. Dr. Ryu Min had developed linguistic algorithms that could decode most alien languages within days. She had created cultural analysis protocols that prevented diplomatic disasters. Her patient, methodical approach had made peaceful contact with dozens of species possible. Now she was gone, and with her, centuries of accumulated knowledge about how to talk to aliens without starting wars. "Can we not simply use Dr. Ryu's research?" asked Committee Chair Brightthought. "She took all her data when she left," Golden Mind replied sadly. "The linguistic algorithms, the cultural databases, the psychological profiles, all of it is gone." The new species they were trying to contact had already shown signs of aggression when simple translation errors had offended their cultural sensibilities. What should have been a peaceful first contact was turning into a potential war, simply because the humans who knew how to handle such situations were no longer there. But the worst news was yet to come. Deep space monitoring stations at the edge of Council territory had detected something that made every previous crisis seem small. Long-range sensors were picking up massive movement. In the void sector, the dark region of space where ancient legends said terrible things, slept. Admiral Sharpclaw of the Thylorian Defense Force studied the sensor, reports with growing horror. He had worked with human forces for decades and knew what these readings meant. "The Devourers," he whispered. The Devourers were machine intelligences older than most civilizations in the galaxy. They consumed entire worlds for raw materials, stripping planets down to their cores to build their vast mechanical armies. For 2 centuries, they had been held back by human early warning systems and rapid response fleets. The humans had not destroyed the Devourers. That was probably impossible. But they had made it clear that any Devourer incursion into Council space would face immediate and devastating retaliation. The machines had learned to stay in the dark spaces between stars, waiting for a better opportunity. Now that opportunity had come. "How many ships?" Admiral Sharpclaw asked his intelligence officer. "Initial estimates suggest at least 1,000 Devourer units," came the terrified reply. "Possibly more. They are moving slowly, but they are moving toward inhabited systems." Admiral Sharpclaw felt his blood turn to ice. The entire Thylorian fleet had maybe 50 ships. The combined fleets of all Council species might field 300 vessels. Against 1,000 Devourer machines, they would not stand a chance. "Send an emergency alert to all Council members," he ordered. "We need every ship, every weapon, every defense platform, and try one more time to contact the humans." But the humans remained silent. Their ships had vanished beyond the edges of known space. Their communication networks had gone dark. It was as if humanity had simply disappeared from the galaxy, leaving behind only the slowly failing technology that had kept civilization safe. On Earth, in the capital city of New Seoul, President Kang Dae was reading the intelligence reports from Council space with grim satisfaction. His brother, Ambassador Kim Dae, had returned from the galactic capital with a bitter taste for alien politics. "The pirate attacks are accelerating," reported intelligence. Director Park Sun. "Estimated economic damage to Council space is already in the trillions of credits." Several species are facing complete economic collapse. And the Devourers? President Kang Day asked, moving toward inhabited systems. Our deep space monitors estimate they will reach the first Council colonies within 6 months. President Kang Day nodded slowly. The Devourers had been humanity's greatest fear for centuries. Human military doctrine had been built around the assumption that someday, those ancient machines would try to expand their territory. Everything humans had done in Council space, the early warning systems, the rapid response fleets, the military bases on the Galactic Rim, had been preparation for that eventual threat. Sir, added Director Park's son hesitantly, we are receiving hundreds of messages from Council species. They are begging us to return. Show me. The holographic display activated, showing desperate messages from across Council space. Chancellor Vexthara herself had sent 17 separate communications, each one more desperate than the last. The proud Thylorian defense minister was offering massive reparations for any misunderstanding that had led to human expulsion. The Milani High Council was promising to change their vote, to welcome humans back with full honors. But most heartbreaking were the personal messages. Quicksong of Rain, the Altarian scientist who had worked with Dr. Yoon Soo, was begging for her research partner to return. 3 Rings of Prophet, the Vorthon merchant who had lost his ship to pirates, was pleading for human patrol ships to protect the trade routes again. What are your orders, sir? Asked Director Park's son. President Kang Day was quiet for a long moment, thinking of the contempt in alien eyes as they voted humanity out of Council space. Thinking of the fear and hatred that had overcome 3 centuries of friendship and cooperation. Continue monitoring their situation, he said finally, but maintain communication silence. They made their choice. Now they must live with the consequences. Sir Mill. 1 month after the human evacuation deadline, the last human ship crossed the boundary of Council space. Captain Li Huan of the exploration vessel New Horizon looked back one final time at the galaxy that had rejected his species. Behind him, the stars seemed dimmer somehow, as if the light itself was fading. All ships report successful departure from Council territory, announced his communications officer, Lieutenant Park Ju. We are officially beyond their jurisdiction. Captain Li Huan nodded and turned toward the forward displays. Ahead lay something that filled him with wonder and hope. The first confirmed images of the Andromeda Galaxy, transmitted by human deep space probes. An entire galaxy of untouched worlds, uncharted systems, and unlimited possibilities. Signal the colony fleet, he ordered. Tell them the way is clear. We are going home. But behind them, in the galaxy they were leaving, chaos was spreading faster than anyone had imagined possible. The crisis had moved far beyond simple pirate attacks or failing technology. Something much worse was happening. On the frontier world of Kepler 186f, the automated defense platforms that had protected the system for decades suddenly went silent. These platforms had been built by human engineers and maintained by joint human-alien teams. Without proper maintenance, their quantum processors had started to fail one by one. Colony Governor Wise, leader of the Centaurian settlement, watched in growing terror as the last platform shut down. This system was on the edge of Council space, one of the first places that would face any threat from the Galactic Rim. Emergency transmission from the outer sensor grid, reported his aide. Multiple contacts approaching the system. Configuration unknown. Wise leader felt his blood freeze. The sensor readings showed massive ships, larger than anything in the Council fleets. They moved with the cold precision of machines. Ignoring all attempts at communication, send a distress call to the Council fleet, he ordered desperately. Sir, the nearest Council ships are 3 days away. These contacts will reach our orbital stations in 6 hours. Wise leader stared at the displays in helpless despair. For 100 years, this colony had been protected by human rapid response forces stationed just 2 hours away. Human patrol ships could have been here within minutes of the first alarm. But the humans were gone, and with them any hope of defense. The approaching ships were Devourers, ancient machine intelligences that had stirred from their long sleep in the void between stars. For 2 centuries, they had learned to fear human military might. They had watched from the dark as human ships patrolled the Galactic Rim, always ready to respond to any threat. Now those ships were gone. The early warning systems were failing. The rapid response fleets had vanished. The way was clear for the first time in 200 years. The Devourers struck Kepler 186f without warning or mercy. Massive harvesting machines descended on the planet's surface, stripping away forests, cities, mountains, everything. Within hours, a world that had taken 2 centuries to build was being consumed for raw materials. Similar attacks began across the galactic rim. The Devourers were not just raiding. They were expanding their territory for the first time since humans had arrived in Council space. World after world fell silent as the ancient machines reclaimed territory they had lost to organic life. On Thylos Prime, Admiral Sharpclaw was coordinating the desperate defense of Council space. His command center was chaos. Reports of Devourer attacks, pirate raids, and system failures coming in faster than his staff could process them. "Status report," he demanded of his intelligence chief. 17 colony worlds have gone silent in the past week, came the grim reply. The Devourer fleet has split into multiple task forces. They are attacking on dozens of fronts simultaneously. Our response fleets are too slow and too small to make any difference. Admiral Sharpclaw had fought alongside human forces many times. He knew their tactics, their technology, their way of thinking about warfare. The humans would have met this threat with overwhelming force concentrated at key points, cutting off Devourer supply lines and forcing them to fight on human terms. But the Council fleets were not human. They were designed for formal battles between civilized species, not the brutal mathematics of survival against ancient machine intelligences. Every engagement with the Devourers ended in disaster. "What about the emergency protocols?" Admiral Sharpclaw asked. "The anti-Devourer strategies the humans developed?" His aide looked uncomfortable. "Sir, those protocols require human command codes. The quantum defense networks were built with human encryption that we cannot break. Without their cooperation, most of our advanced defenses are useless." In the Great Council chambers, Chancellor Vexithara was facing the complete collapse of her government. Representatives from across the galaxy were demanding answers she did not have, solutions that did not exist. "The human species must be contacted," shouted the Vorthon representative. "They are the only ones who can stop this disaster." "We have tried," Vexithara replied, her voice cracking with strain. "We have sent hundreds of messages. We have offered to restore their council membership, to provide reparations, to grant them any terms they desire. They will not respond." This was not entirely true. The humans had responded once. A single message had come through the failing quantum networks 3 days ago. It was brief and devastating in its simplicity. Message received. "Good luck. Then we must find them," declared the Thylorian speaker. "Send expeditionary fleets to human space." "We tried that too," Chancellor Vexthera admitted quietly. 3 ships sent to the Sol system found it completely empty. Earth itself has been abandoned. The humans have taken their entire civilization and vanished into deep space. A shocked silence fell over the Great Hall. The representatives had not realized how complete the human departure had been. They had thought humanity was simply withdrawing to their home systems, perhaps to sulk about their expulsion. The reality was far worse. Humanity had left the galaxy entirely. On the industrial world of Proxima Centauri, Engineer Talnath was watching his world die by degrees. Without human technical support, the fusion reactors that powered the planet were failing one by one. Cities that had thrived for centuries were going dark. Billions of people faced starvation as food production systems collapsed. "Can we not rebuild the systems ourselves?" demanded Planetary Governor Highmind. "It would take decades," Talnath replied hopelessly. "Maybe centuries. The humans built these systems over generations, improving and refining them constantly. We do not have their technical knowledge or their industrial base." The truth was becoming clear across Council space. Humanity had not just been participants in galactic civilization, they had been the engineers who made it possible. Their technology, their knowledge, their constant vigilance had been the foundation on which everything else was built. And now that foundation was gone. In the Deep Space Monitoring Station at the edge of Altarian territory, Sensor Technician Quicksight was tracking the advance of Devourer forces with growing despair. The ancient machines were moving methodically through inhabited systems, consuming everything in their path. "Sir," he reported to Station Commander Brightwind, "the Devourers have reached the Vega colonies. All communication has been lost. Commander Brightwind studied the tactical displays with the eye of an experienced military officer. The pattern was clear and terrifying. The Devourers were not just attacking randomly, they were following a systematic plan to reclaim territory they had lost to organic species over the past 2 millennia. They are moving toward the core worlds, he realized. Within 6 months, they will reach Centauri Prime. Within a year, they could threaten the Council homeworld itself. The most bitter irony was that the solution to the Devourer threat existed. Humanity had spent centuries developing anti-Devourer strategies and technologies. Hidden weapons platforms, quantum disruption fields, specialized ship designs. All of it still existed in abandoned human bases across the galactic rim. But the access codes were locked behind human encryption. The technical manuals were written in human languages. The tactical doctrines required human command structures to implement. Without human cooperation, all of this advanced technology was useless. Far beyond the edge of the galaxy, in the vast emptiness between spiral arms, the human fleet was making its final preparations for the journey to Andromeda. President Kang Day stood on the observation deck of the massive colony ship New Sol, watching as thousands of vessels prepared for the greatest migration in human history. "Sir," reported his aide, Commander Song, "we are receiving the final intelligence reports from Council Space. The situation continues to deteriorate. Show me." The holographic display activated, showing the strategic situation across the galaxy they were leaving. Red zones marked areas under Devourer control. Yellow zones showed regions where pirates ruled unopposed. Green zones representing stable Council territory were shrinking by the day. "Estimated casualties?" President Kang Day asked quietly. "Conservative estimates suggest 50 billion dead within the first year," Commander Song-Ah replied. "If the Devourers reach the core worlds, the total could exceed 500 billion. President Kang Day was quiet for a long moment. Those were not just numbers, they were individual lives. Families, children, artists, scientists, farmers,